In this video, I will share with you the main ideas I gleaned from Seth Godin's new book, The Practice. Hello and welcome. If this is your first time here, my name is Brian, and on this channel I bring to you book summaries on the best books in the field of creativity. My main focus is to bring you ideas to help you be more creative. If this sounds like something you'll gain value from, please subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you'll know when I post new videos. This is from the jacket cover of The Practice. Seth Godin has walked this walk. He started successful companies, taught millions of people, and left his mark on our creative culture. He is the author of 19 international bestsellers, translated into more than 35 languages, including Tribes, Purple Cow, Linchpin, The Dip, and This is Marketing. He writes daily at seths.blog, which is one of the most popular blogs in the world. He writes about the post-industrial revolution, the way ideas spread, marketing, quitting, leadership, and most of all, changing everything. The first idea I'd like to discuss is what he calls trust yourself. And he uses the word yourself as two words. He describes art as fine art. That's obviously one definition, but his definition has more to do with the human act of doing something that might not work, something that is generous, and something that will make a difference. It's basically the emotional act of doing personal, self-directed work to make a change that we can be proud of, such as solving a problem for your audience or your customers by putting yourself on the hook. And the hook to him is basically doing work that's in the public domain, like writing a blog that other people can see. Even though that's scary, he feels it's not only necessary but beneficial. And by doing that, we are performing a generous act. In other words, we are sharing insight, love, and magic. And the more it spreads, the more it's worth to all those who are lucky enough to experience your contribution. And again, art is doing something that might not work simply because it's a generous thing to do. In other words, creating something that changes someone. It's generous because you are trying to make things better, even though it might not work. And he talks about trust as a commitment to the practice, basically a decision to lead and make change happen, regardless of the bumps, because engaging with the practice is better than hiding from it. We begin to trust the practice because it's our best available option. And he says that it's time to start trusting yourself, basically to act as if you are onto something, that it's going to work, and that you have a right to be here. And that our practice begins with the imperative: we embrace a different pattern, a pattern that offers no guarantees, requiring us to find a process and to trust ourselves. Trusting yourself comes from a desire to do something that matters. Your work is never going to be good enough for everyone, but it's already good enough for someone. Committing to a practice that makes our best better is all we can do. And he says, if you want to be a writer, then write. Basically, do, then be, not the other way around. He blogs every day, and he encourages other people to blog on a regular basis. He says it establishes your identity by doing your work. It's persistent and consistent effort over time. The practice is the output. The journey is the entire point. We become what we do. When he was younger, he worked with the writer Isaac Asimov, And he uses Mr. Asimov as an example. He says that he would wake up every morning, he would sit at his typewriter and type. That was his job, to type. And he would do that for several hours each day. The stories he created came along for the ride. They were the bonus. He typed when he wasn't inspired. The typing turned into writing, and he became inspired. We don't write because we, quote, feel like it. We feel like it because we write. The muse shows up when we do the work, not the other way around. So he encourages people to write on a regular schedule, write a blog. It is organized and public and permanent. It puts you on the hook. He encourages people to eliminate the externals, dial down the drama, and avoid special situations. Perhaps even turn off the Wi-Fi for a day. Sit with your tools, boundaries, and process, and nothing else. There is time to re-engage with the world after we do our work. Writing every day is a practice. We don't promise the result. He gives the example of Saturday Night Live. He says that they came on at 11:30, no matter what, whether the work was done or not. They didn't come on at 11:30 because they were done. They came on because it was 11:30. And he says it doesn't matter if the work is good at first. I mean, how can it be? He gives the example of Richard Pryor. He asks, was Richard Pryor a hilarious guy the first time he got up on stage to do a comedy routine? Of course not. It takes practice, and those first tries are basically to let you know that it is survivable. You show up, you do your best, and you learn from it. Then we get to do it again. Do the work every single day, blog daily, ship daily, show up daily. Find your streak and maintain it. There's plenty of time to make it better. Right now, your job is to make it. Another theme he talks about is being generous. A chance to make things better. Turning on lights, opening doors for people, metaphorically speaking. Helping us connect to our better nature. Helping us to connect to one another. And he says abundance multiplies. He gives the example of if you lived in a village where the water was terrible to drink, but you found a system to clean the water, would you keep that to yourself? I mean, you might be tempted to if it took you a year or two to come up with, but by sharing it with everybody in the village, you are reaping benefits because everybody else is getting better and healthier and more productive, and that all comes back to you as well. If you ship generous work and it doesn't connect with a desired audience, the practice itself isn't a failure. You just haven't found the correct audience. He says we can find a devotion to a craft. We can trust a process to enable us to get better and better at the work we do. And being accepted and admired by your specific audience, he believes is the goal of the working creative. The ability to continue to do your work for people who care. This is where we can produce without feeding the beast of more. He says, see the audience you've chosen to see, then bring them what they need. Either you'll learn what's not working, or they'll learn that you've created something that they've been waiting for. We make a difference in the world when we choose to make a difference. Choose to make work that matters a great deal to someone. Your distinct skill set and point of view are precisely what we need from you. He talks about the professional. He He says, when you trust yourself enough to turn pro, you're entering into a covenant with those who seek to serve, with those that you seek to serve. You promise to design with intention, and they agree to engage with the work you promise to bring them. He says to ship creative work on a schedule without attachment or reassurance. The best work and opportunities go to those who are hard to replace. When you bring work from outside the status quo to people who need it, you're doing something peculiar, specific, identifiable, and actionable. And getting back to that previous point about being hard to replace, he says that a lot of the work in the world is getting replaced by machines or systems, and many people are getting pushed out of the workforce. But if you are creative and have your own niche, there's more of a chance that you'll do well with your work. He says that you are leading and searching for enrollment. And he describes the difference between a leader and a manager. Basically, a manager is given authority. They have power. They can fire you or, whatnot. Whereas a leader is more of a voluntary thing. It's something that you choose to take on, whether you know it's going to work or not. And enrollment basically is, students are taught in school a lot of subjects that they don't like, and they might often check out. Whereas if they decide to learn more about a certain video game or, whatever the subject may be, it's something that they are doing voluntarily. They're self-directed, and that's what he means by enrollment. For people who say, I see you and trust you and want to go where you are going. He says, get the practice right, and your commitment will open the door for the market to engage with your work. And as Kevin Kelly reminds us, a solo artist can live well with 1,000 true fans. He talks about intent. And basically, I desire to create change. The change is for someone specific. We need to figure out who we are doing the work for, basically our target audience, what he calls the smallest viable audience. He says that, the smallest audience, of course, would be one person, but that probably isn't viable. So whatever you can earn a living on or what you feel is satisfactory for, your smallest audience is what he means. He suggests finding 10 people who care enough about your work to enroll in the journey, and then they will bring others along. Once we know who it is for, it is easier to accept that we have the ability and responsibility to bring positive change to that person. Not to all people, but for this person, this set of beliefs, this tribe. We also need to figure out what change we are trying to make. You need to know what you are trying to accomplish. The alignment of the who and the what are the first step. Be prepared to describe the change I seek to make, at least to yourself. Care enough to commit to making that change. Ship work that resonates with the people it's for. We can create a body of work and a community that understands the impact we are capable of. Engage in the long process of earning genuine expertise in service of making a change. And he discusses the concept that there's no such thing as writer's block. Seth claims that writer's block is our fear, our choice to not show our bad work. He says that even the best artists create bad work, lots of bad work. He points to a famous New Yorker cartoonist who has had more success as a cartoonist with that magazine than most people. And even he showed a photograph of a stack of cartoons that were rejected by the magazine, and the ones that were accepted, and he said it was like an 80-to-1 ratio. So even the best often have a lot of bad work to produce the good work. He says that creative leaders fail. It's the foundation of our work. We do our best, we edit, then we do it again. We move from helpless beginner to floundering mediocrity to working professional. It reminds me of Jordan Peterson's advice to, quote, do bad writing. He says, eventually some good writing will come out. The scales of perfectionism somehow fall from my shoulders when I hear that advice. The freedom that opens up is full of potential. And Seth also suggests that we make assertions. An assertion is a promise that you'll try, a promise that you'll ship. Find your audience, then share a point of view and an invitation to connect around a new idea. And he talks about earning your skills. Seth encourages us to overinvest in one or two skills, what he calls our superpower, and choose it knowing that we will be asserting it to the outside world. He discusses what it means to be, quote, the best in the world. He points out that it's not between you and the 7+ billion people in the world. It is actually a much smaller audience. To be the best in the world means someone with options and information will choose you, because your version of best matches what they seek, and because you're in their consideration set, basically their world. He gives the example of two dermatologists, one who's in Tucson and one who's in Iowa. The person who's looking for the dermatologist lives in Iowa. The dermatologist in Tucson has developed a method that helps, eliminate bad skin or acne, a little bit quicker than the other dermatologists. But if you happen to be really well known and very skilled and you live in Iowa, the person who lives in Iowa who's looking for a dermatologist is going to choose you because you fit the requirements and you are in their world geographically. He encourages us to announce and earn a superpower, one that's worth waiting for, seeking out, and yes, paying for. And to conclude this, he states that the actual goal is to become the best in the world at being you, the peculiar version of you, your assertions and your art. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks, and see you next time.